morning, and thank you, Elodie. Actually, for me, it's a pleasure because I'm the crossroads of both the CTO topic of the day and the SAF topic of the day. So that's really my pleasure. I'm delighted to be here at the Paris Air Lab this morning to share the industry perspective and Safran's vision on how innovation connects and is driving both the topic of decarbonization of aviation and the topic also of sovereignty in aviation. Today, as you know, we all as a community of aviation are committed to what I would call the fourth revolution of aviation. Our predecessors have made aviation successively feasible in the early days of the 20th century, then safe, globally at the turn of World War II. After that, affordable, especially in the 1980s. We have now to make it just sustainable. So we are implementing a technological transition to address the climate transition. And at Safran, we have placed breakthrough research for disruptive technology at the core of our mission to prepare the next generation of aircraft. So, as a testimony to the level of effort this represents, just one figure to share with you. We've made a decision for a few years inside Safran to devote 3/4, so 75% of our self-funded research and technology investment, so our pocket money, I would say, to reduce the environmental impact of our products. This is truly one of the biggest journeys in the history of the company. 2 years ago at the Paris Air Lab, we had the pleasure to present Safran's group technology roadmap, which is built around 3 key pillars, and we will elaborate again during this day on some of these pillars. First one is technologies for ultra-efficient aircraft. Second one is electrification of usages. And the third one is sustainable aviation fuel. These pillars have not changed. And this is both a testimony of our sustained commitment to the decarbonization effort, and I should say also a testimony to the importance of being earnest. Today, I'm pleased to say that the news is not that much the nature of the pillars, but the level of progress we've made in the meantime across the board on this pillar. And that's really what is new as compared to what we could say 2 years ago in the same forum. And the RISE program at Safran level is really the icon of our contribution to a more efficient aircraft. At the center of this effort, it's the disruptive open fan architecture that you may be familiar with, and it is showcased on the Paris Air Lab, on our booth, on the Clean Aviation booth as well, where you can touch and feel, I would say, what this is about. The aim is very simple. At engine level, our target is to invent the new frontiers of engines that will bring at least a reduction by 20% of the fuel burn, contributing to the more efficient aircraft. So where do we stand today as I'm talking about how we progressed on the topic? Just a few, I would say, key indicators to feel and touch where we stand. As compared to 2 years ago, we have performed more than 350 tests across the board also of what we had to do, and this has been successfully completed across various RISE technologies. These tests are especially targeting 3 topics where we needed very upfront to gain confidence in the relevance of the concept. First, the propulsive efficiency, then the acoustic performance of this very innovative design that was very early identified as a key challenge, and third, the robustness of these big fan blades, not covered by a nacelle, against off-design condition. Once again, something where we needed very early in the technology phase to gain also confidence in. Weight reduction, for sure, is another central focus and makes very significant progress in every area where we can. We are working to reduce weight through both advanced materials, but not only, also new manufacturing techniques, in particular additive manufacturing, but not limited to it. And the Safran stand, I invite you during the course of the day to see our latest parts produced that way with additive manufacturing, and especially a quite impressive part a 1 meter diameter part for RISE. This is for us really a record in terms of size as compared to what has already been produced in Europe. That's a premiere for us. That's for the propulsive aspect of it. For the electrification pillar, just one news for us that really is a game changer as compared to where we stood 2 years ago. This year, or end of 25, and this was officialized this year, we achieved a major milestone, the successful certification granted by EASA, the European Agency for Aerospace Safety, to the Engenius 100. This is a world premiere for an electric motor to power new air mobility. And in the field of sustainable aviation fuel, the large-scale deployment of sustainable aviation fuel across our industry will be decisive, as you know, for achieving net zero aviation. So we are actively supporting the development of sustainable aviation fuel production industry, despite the fact that this is not definitely in our hands. This is another industry. So creating the case for it and pleading for this is something that we are extremely active on. For example, through also our venture capital subsidiary, Safran Corporate Venture, we have invested in a select number of startups that are really devoted to the emergence of fuel production, innovative fuel production, and carbon capture as well. So that's mainly a resume of where we stand in terms of progress for our technology roadmap, supporting the decarbonization effort. But how does this connect also with the challenge of sovereignty? Sovereignty and innovation. Innovation is just a mindset. Innovation is about challenging the status quo. And innovation is also, therefore, instrumental for sovereignty. First, in terms of products, that's quite natural. By nurturing our technological roots in defense and space, and developing dual-use solutions for both civil and military applications, Safran is actively building state-of-the-art products and defense technologies. Just an example, the world-class inertial navigation systems are capable of providing precise positioning even in jammed or spoofed environment. This means without reliance on the GPS signals. But this is common sense to associate sovereignty with military topics. Sovereignty for us means a lot more. I mean, sovereignty means freedom of movement in everything a company has to do. And this goes down to industrial operations. So in a world experiencing increased geopolitical and commercial tensions, sovereignty is also critical for building a resilient supply chain. And here, what does innovation consist in? It consists just simply in challenging our industrial setup, not just relying on what we've put in place. Just for this reason, 3 examples that make this point easy to understand. And sometimes we are doing things also in partnership. First, with Aubert et Duval, this French company in charge of elaboration of critical materials. We made recently the decision, together with our colleagues from Airbus and the French private equity fund TKO, to take control over that. This is typically the topic of critical supply and ensuring security of supply for critical metallic material. Second example, different nature, the grand opening 2 weeks ago of a new factory inside Safran called Safran Blades in Belgium. What is significant in this? Not just an additional company. The decision was made to revamp our industrial setup and the balance between the make and the buy for some critical parts that were absolutely essential to the current and the next generation of engines. We are talking here about compressor blades, and the decision we made, in fact, is to create an option for us to have vertical integration of production of these compressor blades. Why? Because this is just offering flexibility to the management between in-house production and still external sourcing. It's not just to offset completely the external sourcing. It gives us freedom to maneuver. And third example is the recent announcement also in the production galaxy of Safran of a new foundry factory in Rennes, once again for sovereignty topics, namely this time not compressor blade, but turbine blades for civil and military engines. So these, I think, illustrate the point of innovation in the industrial field to support the sovereignty concern. And I could not conclude without a word that has almost nothing to do neither with innovation nor with technology or with sovereignty, but which is clearly a message to the young generation. And this is also a concern of our big companies. Message to the young generation, what do I mean? The challenges I talked about are definitely not easy. It's not a done deal. It's not like this. These challenges, they are complex to tackle. So for the young generation, and we will repeat this tomorrow during a day that is very much devoted to schools, universities, and so on, we need your talents. We need more than that. We need your motivations, and you have good reasons to be motivated for that. Why? Because making aviation more sustainable and sovereign deserves your dedication. So thank you very much for your attention. I don't know if you have some time to take questions, if you wish. I will be pleased to answer. Otherwise, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. If you have any questions, raise your hand and we'll bring the microphone over. Oh, yes.
Hello. Could you please talk about, from a sovereignty point of view, how Europe-wide projects, so a more European supply chain, could help, or whether in France there is still a French preference? Thank you.
No. If there were just a French preference for us, we would be already killed. We would be dead. Why? Because in terms of supply chain, we are heavily relying on a network of suppliers that I recall to you represent more or less between 60 and 70% of the added value of the final product we are delivering to customers. So the supply chain topic is just core and key for the sustainability of the company, not just aviation, but our company, corporate purpose. Then, if you look at the current setup of our supply chain, it's very much international. For sure, the deep roots of a group like Safran that inherits from trademarks of companies home-based in France can explain to some extent our exposure to a French supply base. But today, look at where the critical materials come from and so on. They, in most cases, come from an oligopolistic set of companies that are serving all major players. And a very limited fraction of them are home-based in France. So the question behind, I think, what you're saying is, what does sovereignty mean? Where is the border of sovereignty? So it's a question, and this is a question we have to address on a day-to-day basis. For instance, we have dual sourcing, triple sourcing, including Chinese suppliers, and we make the most of the excellence of the production of their factories and so on. So the question for us is, except for export control rules, where in no case we will take the risk to infringe them, but except for this, it's a dynamic analysis to consider, well, with the current status and with the risks we have to mitigate, do we have to move in a blunt movement just to repatriate activities, or do we have to create flexibility? That was my point about the Safran blade topic. It's not just to get rid of the current external suppliers of these blades. It's a way for us to offer flexibility to say, well, once we have in-house the industrial capability and the competitiveness of this internal source, of course, to compete with our external sourcing, we are much more comfortable with the fact that in the long run, we will never be locked either by a monopoly or by a geopolitical tension in a given region in the world that would prevent us from sourcing from this part and so on. And after that, it's not a given at day one. Flexibility means that it's a day-to-day adjustment of the make or buy, for instance, the ratio between internal and external sourcing and so on. So that's where we stand. So European area, like including France, is for us, I would say, an area of, let's say, natural confidence. And here the topic is very much the cross-dependencies for some industrial companies in Europe in terms of shareholders structure could be looked at, plus competitiveness, to make sure that this supply base has a chance to remain competitive as compared to other sources. That's the challenge, and it's not predefined, that's really dynamic analysis.
I think there is no more time because the timer is a bit late. So it's time for you to go. Thank you very much, Eric.
Thank you very much.
We can applaud. Thank you.